Michael Jordan hears his old trainer was fired without a pension. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. Michael Jordan's rise to basketball stardom was anything but easy. It wasn't a story of instant glory. Instead, it was a tale of constant rejection, hard work, and an unwavering desire to prove himself. In the small town of Wilmington, North Carolina, Jordan had always been driven. But it was during his time at Laney High School that his legend began to take form. At just 5 feet 10 inches, he wasn't the biggest or the fastest player on the court. But what he lacked in height, he made up for in tenacity and hunger. His cut from the varsity team in his sophomore year was the first real blow to his pride. That setback stung, but it also set the stage for his meteoric rise. Instead of shrinking from the rejection, Jordan grew stronger, pushing himself harder every day. The moment that changed everything came the following year when he made the varsity squad, dominating in a way that left everyone stunned. He wasn't just good, he was exceptional. His performance on the court caught the attention of scouts, and soon, he was fielding offers from top-tier colleges. But the pressure to live up to expectations was never far behind. Jordan's time at the University of North Carolina was a turning point. As a freshman, he wasn't expected to lead. The spotlight was on the likes of James Worthy and Sam Perkins. Yet, in the 1982 NCAA championship game, with seconds left on the clock and the game tied, Jordan received a pass from Worthy and made a shot that would seal the victory for UNC. It was a moment of destiny. His poise under pressure was a glimpse of what was to come in his NBA career. But it wasn't just the shot that made Jordan stand out, it was his mentality. From that point on, Michael Jordan wasn't just another player, he was the player to watch. But despite his growing reputation, the NBA draft was not as straightforward as many might have thought. The Chicago Bulls, who had the third overall pick in the 1984 draft, knew they needed someone who could revitalize their struggling franchise. But there was skepticism. Some doubted his ability to carry a team in the pro leagues. They had seen players come and go, stars who couldn't adjust to the NBA's physicality or fast pace. When the Bulls selected Jordan, the pressure was immense. In his rookie season, Jordan didn't disappoint. Averaging over 28 points per game, he quickly became the star the Bulls desperately needed. But what stood out the most was his confidence. Jordan wasn't just playing to win, he was playing to dominate. In his early days with the Bulls, that drive to be the best sometimes clashed with the team's dynamics. The Bulls weren't yet a championship contender, and Jordan was often seen as a lone wolf, trying to carry the load on his own. His raw skill was undeniable, but it was clear that for Chicago to succeed, they needed more than just a star, they needed a team. But Michael Jordan wasn't the type to wait for things to fall into place. If the team wasn't ready, he would make them ready. His competitiveness didn't stop at the end of the game. It bled into practice, into the gym, into every moment. He pushed his teammates in ways they hadn't been pushed before. And while they were initially resistant, they began to understand that Jordan wasn't just about winning, he was about demanding greatness. His competitive fire was matched by a physical transformation. Under the tutelage of his trainers, Jordan began to condition himself like never before. He wasn't just a player who could score in isolation, he became the player who could defend, pass, and do whatever it took to win. With each passing season, Jordan evolved, becoming more than just a scorer. He was turning into a player who could control every aspect of the game. The turning point came in 1986. Jordan had already proven himself as a scorer, but the world was beginning to wonder if he could do it when it mattered most, when the stakes were high. That year, the Chicago Bulls were a good team, but not great. Despite Jordan's explosive performances, they couldn't get past the Boston Celtics, who were led by Larry Bird, in the playoffs. But even in defeat, Jordan showcased what would become his signature, the ability to rise to the occasion. In Game 2 of the 1986 playoffs, Jordan put on one of the most memorable performances of his career. He dropped 63 points against the Celtics, a record for points scored in a playoff game. It was a performance that would go down in history, and yet, the Bulls still lost. But Jordan wasn't deterred. Instead, he used that loss as fuel for the fire. He knew the path to greatness wouldn't be easy, and it wasn't about any one performance. It was about the work he put in behind the scenes, the hours spent honing his craft, and the refusal to settle for anything less than excellence. That 63-point game didn't just prove his ability to score, it proved that Michael Jordan was willing to take on the impossible. It was a message to the league that he wasn't just another player, he was a force to be reckoned with. As his career progressed, Jordan's focus turned from individual achievements to championships. He wasn't just a player, he was becoming the face of a franchise, the centerpiece around which the entire team would revolve. But the road to an NBA title was anything but smooth. Jordan would face not just opponents on the court but internal struggles as well. The pressure of being the best, of carrying a team and a city on his shoulders, was immense. But it only fueled his resolve. The 1989-90 season was a turning point. Jordan had grown into his role as a leader, but it was clear the Bulls needed something more. Enter Phil Jackson, the coach who would change everything. Jackson, with his zen-like approach, was exactly what Jordan needed. For the first time in his career, Jordan had a coach who understood the delicate balance between individual brilliance and team success. Jackson instilled in Jordan the idea that a team's strength came not from one player's efforts, but from a collective commitment to excellence. It was a philosophy that would push Jordan to new heights. In the 1991 NBA Finals, Jordan and the Bulls faced off against the Los Angeles Lakers. It was here that Michael Jordan solidified his legacy as the greatest basketball player in the world. With a dominant series, including a legendary performance in Game 2, Jordan finally captured his first NBA championship. The moment he hoisted the trophy was the culmination of years of sacrifice, hard work, and relentless ambition. But for Michael Jordan, this was just the beginning. He had proven he could win, but now, he had to prove he could do it again, and again, and again. And that's exactly what he did. As Jordan stood on the podium in 1991, holding the trophy aloft, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that the NBA had just witnessed the birth of a dynasty. But for Jordan, the real journey was just beginning. This was the first of many triumphs to come, and with every victory, the legend of Michael Jordan would grow. Michael Jordan's rise to basketball greatness wasn't born out of instant success. It came from setbacks, fierce determination, and a drive to silence any doubters. Born in Wilmington, North Carolina, Jordan wasn't always the towering figure we know today. As a child, he played basketball with his brothers, and it was clear he had a passion for the game. However, it wasn't until high school that his ambition began to take shape. In his sophomore year at Laney High School, Jordan faced one of the most pivotal moments of his early career, being cut from the varsity team. At just 5 feet 10 inches, he wasn't the most physically imposing player on the court. It was a sting that would stay with him for years to come, but it didn't break him. Instead, it fueled his fire. He worked relentlessly, and the following year, he returned to the team with a vengeance, earning a spot on the varsity squad and showcasing his growing talent. Jordan's resilience was clear. He wasn't going to let anything stop him from proving his worth. By his senior year, Jordan was dominating the high school courts, becoming the top player in the area. His performances earned him recognition from college scouts, and it wasn't long before he committed to play at the University of North Carolina. It was there that the world would begin to see the first glimpse of his greatness. As a freshman, Jordan wasn't expected to lead the team. The pressure was on players like Sam Perkins and James Worthy, who had the experience. But when the NCAA championship game arrived in 1982, Jordan seized his moment. With seconds left on the clock, he hit a jump shot that gave UNC the lead and sealed the victory. That moment wasn't just about the shot, it was about how Jordan took control when it mattered most. His ability to perform in clutch situations set the stage for everything that would follow. But despite his college success, the road to the NBA wasn't guaranteed. Many of the top players in the league still doubted his ability to make it in the pros. Some thought his game wouldn't translate to the NBA's physicality and speed. In 1984, Jordan entered the NBA draft. The Chicago Bulls had the 3rd overall pick and selected him, knowing they needed someone to revive the franchise. From the moment Jordan stepped onto the court, it was clear he wasn't like other players. His combination of athleticism, skill, and relentless drive was evident. In his rookie season, Jordan averaged 28 points per game, but it was his mentality that stood out. He wasn't just playing to be good, he was playing to be the best. His passion was contagious, and soon, he was the centerpiece of a franchise that had struggled for years. However, early on, it became clear that Jordan wasn't enough to carry the Bulls to success on his own. His incredible scoring ability was undeniable, but the team wasn't structured for championship contention. Chicago had to find a way to turn this individual talent into something greater. But Michael Jordan wasn't the type to wait for things to fall into place. If the team wasn't ready, he would make them ready. Through his tireless work ethic, Jordan pushed himself and his teammates to new heights. Every practice, every game, he brought an intensity that couldn't be matched. But for all his greatness, the first few years of his career were marred by early playoff failures. His individual brilliance was often overshadowed by his inability to lead the Bulls past the elite teams of the time, especially the Detroit Pistons. The Bad Boys of Detroit, led by Isaiah Thomas, used a physical style of play to stifle Jordan's offense, and for several years, they dominated the Bulls in the postseason. But this adversity only made Jordan more determined. He knew he had to improve, not just as a player, but as a leader. He had to find a way to break through the defenses and the mental barriers that held him back. Enter Tim Grover, a trainer who would play a crucial role in Jordan's development. Grover's no-nonsense approach to training was exactly what Jordan needed. Under Grover's guidance, Jordan's body transformed. His physical conditioning reached a level that made him not just an offensive juggernaut but a well-rounded player capable of defending, passing, and controlling every aspect of the game. In 1986, Jordan had a defining moment. The Chicago Bulls were facing the Boston Celtics in the playoffs, and despite Jordan's spectacular performance, scoring 63 points in a single game, the Bulls still lost. It was an incredibly frustrating moment for Jordan. He had given everything he had, and it still wasn't enough. But rather than letting that loss define him, he used it as motivation. He knew that if he wanted to be the greatest, he had to learn how to win when it mattered most, and that meant more than just scoring points. The year 1989 marked a turning point for both Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. By this time, Jordan had developed into a complete player. But his championship aspirations still felt distant. The Bulls needed something more, something that would give them the edge they had been missing. That something came in the form of Phil Jackson, a coach with a unique approach that would change everything. Jackson's philosophy was different from anything Jordan had encountered. He encouraged selflessness, teamwork, and balance rather than focusing solely on individual achievement. With Jackson at the helm, the Bulls began to find their rhythm. Jordan's trust in his coach and teammates deepened. He began to learn that winning wasn't just about carrying the team on his back, it was about building chemistry, making the right play, and pushing each other to elevate their games. In the 1991 NBA Finals, the Chicago Bulls faced the Los Angeles Lakers, led by Magic Johnson. This was Jordan's moment to prove he could do more than just score, he could win when it mattered most. The Bulls dominated the series, and Jordan's performance was nothing short of spectacular. He was named Finals MVP, and the Chicago Bulls were finally champions. The 1991 championship was the culmination of years of struggle and sacrifice. For Jordan, it was the moment that confirmed his place in history. But this was just the beginning. With each title, each victory, Jordan only solidified his legacy, and the world began to see the true extent of his greatness. But the road ahead was far from easy, and the pressure would only continue to mount as he sought to build a dynasty that would define a generation. Jordan's first championship wasn't just a personal triumph, it was a message to the entire league. Michael Jordan had arrived, and he wasn't going anywhere. With a new sense of confidence and an even stronger commitment to winning, Jordan's next chapter would be one of dominance, leadership, and an unrelenting drive to secure his place as the greatest basketball player of all time. It's often said that behind every great player is a great coach, but Michael Jordan's story goes beyond that. It's the story of a coach who didn't just see Jordan's raw talent but also understood the man beneath the athlete. Tim Grover, Jordan's personal trainer, wasn't just another fitness coach, he was a catalyst in transforming Jordan from an extraordinary player to an unstoppable force. While Jackson would be the architect of the Bulls dynasty, Grover's role in Jordan's journey was as crucial as any game-winning shot. Before Jordan met Grover, his career had been a constant battle. He'd already earned individual accolades, but the Chicago Bulls hadn't seen success in the playoffs. The frustration was building. Jordan's game was extraordinary, but the team struggled to match his intensity and vision. Jordan was constantly questioned for his inability to carry the Bulls to the promised land, and while his performances were dazzling, the team wasn't getting any closer to winning championships. That's when Tim Grover entered the picture. A trainer with a reputation for working with elite athletes, Grover was brought in not just to build Jordan's body, but to shape his mindset. Jordan, already known for his tenacity, was about to meet someone who could push him even further. Grover's philosophy was simple but profound. He didn't treat Jordan as an athlete. He treated him as a machine that needed to be finely tuned, a mental game as much as a physical one. Grover's relationship with Jordan wasn't the conventional one. It wasn't about building friendships or offering easy encouragement. It was about pushing Jordan beyond his limits. Grover understood that the mind controlled the body, and he saw in Jordan a player who was capable of pushing beyond the boundaries of what was thought possible. But to do that, he knew Jordan had to be both physically and mentally prepared for the immense pressure that came with being the best. Their first interactions were intense. Grover didn't spare Jordan from the hard truths or the relentless training sessions. The famous saying, "I can't turn it off," became a mantra for Jordan, reflecting his drive to push past pain, fatigue, and doubt. Grover wasn't there to pamper Jordan. Instead, he became a sounding board for Jordan's frustrations, a shoulder to lean on during the darkest moments of his career. But most importantly, Grover didn't let Jordan settle for anything less than excellence. As the years went on, Grover's influence on Jordan became undeniable. Jordan began to see the game differently, not as an athlete looking for the spotlight, but as a person committed to mastering every detail. Grover helped Jordan fine-tune his skills, making sure his body was in peak condition. This wasn't about aesthetics or strength for the sake of looks. It was about longevity, durability, and most importantly, mental toughness. Grover's guidance ensured that Jordan could maintain the high standards he set for himself, and that he could keep delivering when the stakes were highest. The work wasn't easy. Grover pushed Jordan to extremes, knowing that only by going beyond his comfort zone could Jordan realize his full potential. The training sessions became grueling tests of willpower, with Jordan often questioning his limits. But as each day passed, Jordan's body and mind began to change. His athleticism became more explosive, his endurance greater, and his resilience unbreakable. Jordan was no longer just a basketball player, he was becoming a symbol of mental and physical dominance. Grover's role wasn't limited to training sessions. He became Jordan's confidant, someone who could challenge him to reach new heights while helping him manage the stress and isolation that came with being the most famous athlete on the planet. The pressure on Jordan was immense. With every game, every season, the expectations grew. Jordan was no longer playing for championships, he was playing to secure his legacy. And Grover, quietly behind the scenes, played a significant role in helping him manage the weight of those expectations. One of the most defining moments of their relationship came during the 1997 to 1998 NBA season. The Last Dance was underway, and Jordan was entering the final chapter of his career with the Chicago Bulls. The team had already won 5 championships, but there was one more to be had. The pressure was higher than ever, and Jordan, who was now well into his 30s, had to overcome even more obstacles. Injuries, fatigue, and age were starting to take their toll, but Grover's influence was more important than ever. With the entire basketball world watching, Grover's philosophy of pushing past the limits became essential. In the lead-up to the 1998 NBA Finals, Jordan was dealing with significant physical pain. His back was bothering him, and fatigue from years of playing at the highest level was catching up. It was a brutal reminder of how relentless the NBA season could be. Yet, Grover's training and his mindset helped Jordan stay focused. He wasn't just preparing his body for the game, he was preparing his mind to embrace the challenge ahead. Grover taught Jordan how to block out the noise, how to stay mentally sharp despite the physical pain, and how to rise above everything else to focus solely on the game. That season, Jordan had to fight harder than ever before, and his performance reflected the mental toughness Grover had cultivated in him. Jordan was the epitome of what it meant to be a champion, not just through his talent, but through his sheer willpower. He wasn't just trying to win a sixth title, he was showing the world that the path to greatness was paved with sacrifice, resilience, and an unyielding determination to be the best. It wasn't just about basketball. The lessons Grover imparted to Jordan transcended the sport. It was about how to push through adversity, how to refuse to be defeated, and how to be a relentless force of nature, no matter the obstacles. Grover's influence didn't just shape Jordan's career, it reshaped his entire approach to life. Jordan had become more than just an athlete, he had become a symbol of what it meant to strive for greatness, to break through mental and physical boundaries, and to never stop pursuing perfection. But Grover's impact on Jordan wasn't just about what happened during the high points. It was in the quiet moments, the behind-the-scenes training sessions where Jordan's mental fortitude was tested the most. Grover helped mold Jordan into the player who could perform at his peak in every game, but also the player who could rise to the occasion in the highest stakes moments, when the game was on the line, when the world was watching, and when every other player was afraid of failure. Their relationship was built on trust, but it was also forged in the fire of challenge and conflict. Jordan wasn't always the easiest person to work with, his intensity could be overwhelming, and his expectations were nearly impossible to meet. But Grover never shied away from the challenge. He pushed Jordan to be better every single day, always reminding him that greatness wasn't a given, it had to be earned. And through their shared commitment to excellence, they built a bond that would last far beyond the basketball court. In the end, Tim Grover wasn't just a trainer, he was a cornerstone of Michael Jordan's career. His role in shaping Jordan into the athlete, and the man, who would go on to become the greatest basketball player of all time, cannot be overstated. Grover didn't just help Jordan achieve greatness, he helped him redefine it. And through their partnership, they not only built a dynasty but also created a legacy that would inspire generations of athletes to come. The path to greatness is often marked by the guidance of those who can see potential in someone even when others might not. For Michael Jordan, this guiding figure wasn't just a coach in the conventional sense, it was a man who would challenge him to go beyond the limits of his physical and mental capabilities. That man was Tim Grover, a trainer who would help shape Jordan into a basketball legend. At the time of their meeting, Jordan was already an elite athlete, an all-star with a hunger for success. Yet, despite his individual brilliance, he had yet to secure the ultimate prize, an NBA championship. Jordan's raw talent was undeniable, but he had yet to translate that into the kind of dominance that would define his career. Enter Grover, who would become not just a trainer but a mentor and an integral part of Jordan's journey toward greatness. Grover didn't walk into Jordan's life with promises of easy victories or quick fixes. Instead, he brought a mindset that was as demanding as it was revolutionary. Unlike many trainers who focused solely on improving a player's physical attributes, Grover understood that to truly reach greatness, an athlete needed to conquer their mind. Grover's approach was built on the principle that mental toughness was just as important, if not more important, than physical ability. This philosophy would prove to be the key to unlocking Jordan's full potential. Their relationship wasn't based on the typical coach-player dynamic. Grover didn't coddle Jordan. He didn't indulge in the kind of positive reinforcement that many players might have been accustomed to. Instead, Grover pushed Jordan to his limits, constantly demanding more. The training wasn't easy, and neither was their relationship. Jordan was used to winning, to being the best on the court, but Grover showed him that being the best required far more than just skill. It required sacrifice, discipline, and a relentless drive to improve, even when it seemed impossible. The intensity of Grover's training sessions wasn't just about lifting weights or running drills. It was about teaching Jordan how to push through the moments when his body was telling him to stop. It was about developing the kind of resilience that would allow him to not only compete at the highest level but to dominate. The type of mental fortitude Grover instilled in Jordan would come to define the latter's career, especially during the most crucial moments. The partnership between Grover and Jordan was not built on immediate results. The first few years of their work together were marked by Jordan's continued individual brilliance but also his inability to carry the Chicago Bulls past their playoff failures. Grover didn't offer quick fixes or shortcuts. He emphasized the importance of gradual progress, of building strength and mental endurance over time. And with each season, Jordan became stronger, both physically and mentally. In the 1996 to 1997 NBA season, Jordan, now fully transformed under Grover's guidance, was in the midst of one of his most dominant stretches. He had already led the Bulls to 3 championships, but the task ahead was to secure his 4th. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about legacy, about proving that his success wasn't a fluke, and that he was capable of maintaining greatness year after year. As Jordan approached his mid-30s, Grover's role became even more critical. The mental demands of maintaining the top spot in the NBA were far greater than many realized. By this point, Jordan had already won multiple MVP awards, and his fame had reached unparalleled levels. But the pressure was also immense. The world expected him to win every time he stepped on the court, and every loss was seen as a failure. Grover understood the psychological toll this took on Jordan, and he worked tirelessly to keep his mind sharp, ensuring that he could perform at his best, even when fatigue and doubt crept in. In the 1997 to 1998 season, Jordan faced perhaps his greatest challenge yet. The Chicago Bulls were entering what would be known as the last dance, the final season of their second three-peat, and the end of an era for the team. There was talk of the end of the dynasty, and the pressure on Jordan to deliver one last championship was greater than ever. He had already led the Bulls to 5 championships, but now the question was whether he could do it again with a team that was aging and a coach, Phil Jackson, who was rumored to be leaving after the season. Grover's role during this time was crucial. Jordan's body was starting to show signs of wear. The physical toll of playing at such a high level for so many years was beginning to add up. Yet Grover didn't just focus on Jordan's physical recovery. He helped him focus on his mindset, on staying mentally sharp and hungry, despite the distractions of fame, business interests, and the pressure to win. As the season progressed, Grover continued to challenge Jordan. He helped him deal with the daily grind of the regular season, the inevitable fatigue that comes with a long NBA campaign. And when the playoffs arrived, Grover's training paid off. Jordan, despite being older and dealing with injuries, found himself playing some of his best basketball. The mental strength Grover had instilled in him was evident in every game, every shot, and every decision Jordan made on the court. The 1998 NBA Finals was the culmination of years of work. The Bulls were facing the Utah Jazz, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. Jordan's performance in the series was a testament to everything Grover had helped him achieve. He wasn't just scoring points, he was dominating both ends of the court. The final game, however, would go down in history as one of the greatest moments of Jordan's career. With less than 30 seconds left in Game 6, Jordan hit a jumper over Jazz guard Brian Russell, giving the Bulls the lead and securing the championship. It was the ultimate testament to Jordan's unbreakable will and Grover's training. The emotional weight of that moment, the culmination of so much hard work, was felt by everyone, Jordan, his teammates, and the millions watching around the world. But Grover's work didn't end with the championship. His legacy wasn't tied to individual wins or losses. It was about the process, the mental and physical preparation that Jordan needed to succeed. In the aftermath of the championship, Grover remained a quiet force behind Jordan's success. He wasn't a household name, but his impact was undeniable. Without Grover's guidance, Jordan's career might have been shorter, and his success might have been far less certain. Grover had helped Jordan navigate the pressures of being the greatest, giving him the tools not just to play but to thrive at the highest level for years. Their relationship transcended the typical player-coach dynamic. Grover was there through the highs and lows, always pushing Jordan to be better, always challenging him to grow. He wasn't just preparing Jordan for basketball games, he was preparing him for the mental battles that come with being the best. And in that, Grover's influence was immeasurable. Tim Grover wasn't just a trainer, he was the unsung hero in Michael Jordan's story. His belief in Jordan, even when others doubted, helped propel one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen to heights no one could have imagined. Through his tough love, his dedication, and his understanding of the human psyche, Grover played an essential role in shaping Jordan's legacy as the greatest basketball player of all time. Michael Jordan's first retirement in 1993 shocked the basketball world. After leading the Chicago Bulls to 3 consecutive NBA championships, achieving everything a player could dream of, Jordan walked away from the game at the peak of his powers. The loss was felt not just in Chicago but across the entire basketball community. To many, Jordan was the face of the NBA, the embodiment of the sport's greatness, and his sudden departure left a void that seemed impossible to fill. The reasons behind Jordan's decision to retire were complex. On the surface, it seemed like he had achieved everything there was to achieve: 3 titles, 2 MVPs, numerous accolades, and an undeniable status as the greatest basketball player in the world. But there was more beneath the surface. Jordan had been through personal turmoil. His father, James Jordan, had been tragically murdered earlier that year. The emotional weight of the loss was profound, and Jordan found himself questioning the meaning of basketball in his life. It seemed that, for the first time, the game didn't provide the same joy it once did. During his time away from the game, Jordan made an unexpected move. He turned to baseball. The decision to try his hand at the sport his father had loved so much was both a form of catharsis and an attempt to step away from the shadow of basketball. Jordan joined the Birmingham Barons, a minor league affiliate of the Chicago White Sox. It was a bold move, one that many viewed as a way to escape the overwhelming pressure of being Michael Jordan. But while Jordan's transition to baseball garnered headlines, it wasn't a perfect fit. He struggled at the plate, and while he displayed flashes of his athleticism, it was clear that his heart was still in basketball. It was during this time that Jordan realized the game he had left behind still had a powerful pull on him. Baseball, while a noble pursuit, couldn't fill the void left by basketball. The decision to return to the NBA was less a surprise than many thought. Jordan had never truly left the game. Basketball was in his blood. Even while playing baseball, he stayed connected to the NBA, watching games and keeping tabs on his former teammates. But there was another factor at play: the NBA needed Michael Jordan. The league, which had soared in popularity during Jordan's first stint, found itself losing some of its luster in the years after his departure. The Chicago Bulls, meanwhile, were struggling without him, and the competition in the league had shifted. The Bulls had been unable to replicate the championship success they had enjoyed with Jordan at the helm, and the void he left in Chicago was growing more pronounced with each passing season. In March of 1995, Jordan made the announcement that would change everything: he was returning to the NBA. The phrase "I'm back" became iconic in the basketball world, a simple statement that carried with it the weight of expectation. But there was an underlying question: could Jordan pick up where he left off? Could a player who had been away from the game for over a year return to the same level of dominance that had made him a global icon? Jordan's return wasn't a smooth transition. In his first few games back, he was rusty, struggling to find his rhythm. The team had undergone changes, and the dynamics were different without him. The Bulls were no longer the dominant force they once were. His body, too, was not the finely tuned machine it had been in 1993. The grind of a full NBA season was starting to take its toll, and Jordan's age, now in his 30s, added another layer of complexity. But even in those early games, it was clear that the greatness was still there. Jordan's competitive drive never wavered, and he worked tirelessly to get back to peak condition. His return was a reminder that even the greatest player in the world wasn't immune to challenges. But Jordan, as always, was determined to prove that greatness wasn't just a matter of talent; it was about mental toughness and an unwavering will to win. As the season progressed, the old magic began to return. Jordan found his rhythm again, and his presence on the court started to reignite the Bulls. His teammates, who had spent the previous year trying to carry the weight of his absence, now had the player who had made them champions back in their midst. Jordan's leadership was once again in full display. He wasn't just a scorer, he was making his teammates better. His basketball IQ was as sharp as ever, and his presence on the court elevated the entire team. The chemistry between him and Scottie Pippen, which had been a key element of the Bulls' success in their first three-peat, was rekindled. But Jordan's comeback wasn't just about the Bulls. It was about more than just winning games. It was about showing the world that no matter the odds, no matter the time away, greatness could be sustained. Jordan wasn't simply trying to win another title, he was out to prove that his first 3 championships weren't a fluke, that he was still the best player in the world, and that no one could take that from him. The 1995 to 1996 season was the ultimate test of Jordan's ability to return to the top. Not only was he adjusting to life back in the NBA after his time away, but the competition was fiercer than ever. Teams like the Orlando Magic, led by Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway, were making waves in the Eastern Conference. The Bulls, despite their many strengths, had to face teams that were improving and getting stronger. But Jordan had faced adversity before, and he wasn't about to back down now. His return wasn't just a return to form, it was a statement. That season, the Chicago Bulls finished with an NBA best 72-10 record, a feat that would go down in history as one of the greatest accomplishments in NBA history. Jordan's performance during the regular season was nothing short of spectacular. He led the team with his scoring, but also with his leadership and determination. He was again the undisputed leader of the Bulls, and his commitment to winning was evident in every game. When the playoffs came, Jordan didn't skip a beat. His ability to perform under pressure was as sharp as ever, and the Bulls cruised through the playoffs, eventually winning their 4th championship in 1996. But Jordan's comeback wasn't just about basketball. It was a reminder of his resilience, his determination, and his ability to overcome challenges. It was a message to the world that greatness could never truly be taken away. Jordan had faced personal and professional setbacks, yet he came back stronger than ever, showing everyone that no matter the circumstances, greatness would always find a way to rise again. By the time the Bulls had secured their 4th championship, Michael Jordan had proven that his legacy wasn't just built on the titles he had won in the past. His return had solidified his place as the greatest basketball player in the world, a title that no one could take from him. He wasn't just playing for titles, he was playing to remind everyone that the pursuit of greatness never ends. Even after stepping away from the game, Michael Jordan had come back stronger than ever, reaffirming why he would forever be considered one of the greatest to ever play the game. The 1990s are often remembered as the era of the Chicago Bulls, and at the center of that dynasty was Michael Jordan. After returning to the NBA in 1995, Jordan and the Bulls went on to dominate the league, culminating in the creation of a dynasty that would become synonymous with greatness. It was a period of unrivaled success, where everything seemed to fall into place, and Jordan's brilliance on the court was matched only by his drive to lead his team to the pinnacle of basketball. The foundation of the Bulls' dominance was built on several key components: the leadership of Michael Jordan, the strategic brilliance of coach Phil Jackson, and the supporting cast of players who complemented Jordan's game. However, the success of the Bulls was also rooted in a philosophy that Phil Jackson would implement, known as the triangle offense. This unique offensive system was designed to maximize the talents of the entire team, emphasizing movement, spacing, and team-oriented play rather than relying solely on one player's individual brilliance. When Jackson arrived in Chicago in 1989, the Bulls were already a competitive team. However, they had yet to achieve the championship success that Jordan had been striving for. Jackson's arrival marked a turning point in the franchise's fortunes. His coaching style, influenced by his time with the New York Knicks and his exposure to the teachings of legendary coach Tex Winter, emphasized unselfish play and creating opportunities for all players on the court. The triangle offense, which involved 3 players forming a triangle on one side of the court, was built to exploit mismatches and create efficient scoring chances. However, the triangle offense was more than just a system, it was a mindset. The system required players to be willing to sacrifice their own individual glory for the good of the team. While Jordan had always been a superstar, Jackson challenged him to see the game in a new light. Jordan was no longer expected to carry the entire team on his back, and this new approach allowed for the emergence of a more balanced, multidimensional Bulls squad. Jordan would remain the focal point, but the system allowed his teammates to thrive, and over time, they became vital contributors to the team's success. The early years of the Bulls dynasty were marked by a gradual building process. In the 1990 to 1991 season, the Bulls reached the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history, facing off against the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers, led by Magic Johnson, had been the dominant team of the 1980s, and they posed a formidable challenge to the upstart Bulls. But Jordan, who had been growing into his leadership role, was not intimidated. In what would become a defining moment in his career, Jordan led the Bulls to a 4-1 victory, capturing the team's first NBA championship and solidifying his place as one of the game's greats. That championship was just the beginning. Over the next 7 seasons, the Bulls would become a powerhouse in the NBA. Jordan would win 5 MVP awards, and the team would claim 6 championships in 8 years. The team's success was not just the result of Jordan's individual brilliance, but also the collective effort of players like Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, Ron Harper, and Steve Kerr, who provided the necessary support and depth to make the Bulls an unstoppable force. Pippen, in particular, became Jordan's trusted sidekick, forming one of the most dynamic duos in basketball history. Pippen's versatility on both ends of the court allowed Jordan to focus on his scoring and leadership. Pippen was a tenacious defender, a skilled passer, and a capable scorer in his own right, and his ability to guard multiple positions made him an invaluable asset to the team. The chemistry between Jordan and Pippen was evident in their play, and it became the backbone of the Bulls' dominance. Together, they created a combination of offense, defense, and leadership that few teams could match. In the early years of the Bulls dynasty, the team faced stiff competition, particularly from the Detroit Pistons, who had defeated them in the playoffs for several years in a row. The Bad Boys Pistons, led by Isaiah Thomas, were known for their physical style of play, and they had Jordan's number. But with the guidance of Jackson and the support of his teammates, Jordan eventually overcame the Pistons' defensive schemes. In 1991, the Bulls defeated Detroit in the Eastern Conference Finals, finally exorcising the demons of previous years and securing a trip to the NBA Finals. The next few seasons would be marked by the Bulls' domination of the NBA. The team's success was built on its ability to play both ends of the floor, combining offensive firepower with a stifling defense. Jordan's ability to score at will was complemented by the Bulls' defensive prowess, which was anchored by the athleticism of Pippen, the shot-blocking ability of center Bill Cartwright, and the hustle of players like Steve Kerr and John Paxson. By 1996, the Bulls had become a dynasty, and they proved it by setting an NBA record for the most wins in a single season with 72. The team cruised through the regular season, and their dominance continued into the playoffs. The 1996 NBA Finals saw the Bulls face off against the Seattle Supersonics, who had a talented team but were no match for the Bulls' offensive and defensive firepower. Jordan was at his best, leading the Bulls to a 4-2 victory and capturing his 4th NBA championship. The win was a testament to the hard work, teamwork, and leadership that had made the Bulls a dynasty. The 1997 to 1998 season was the final year of the Bulls' second three-peat. The team had undergone some changes, with veteran players like Luke Longley and Steve Kerr contributing to the team's success. Despite the aging roster, the Bulls remained a formidable force, and Jordan was determined to capture one more championship before the dynasty came to an end. However, the team was facing uncertainty. The relationship between Jackson and the Bulls front office had deteriorated, and rumors circulated that Jackson would be leaving the team after the season. Jordan's own future was uncertain, and he had hinted at retirement once again. Despite the uncertainty surrounding the team's future, the Bulls remained focused on the task at hand. The 1998 playoffs were a reminder of Jordan's ability to perform under pressure. In the NBA Finals, the Bulls faced the Utah Jazz, led by Karl Malone and John Stockton. The series was hard-fought, with the Jazz giving the Bulls everything they could handle. But Jordan's brilliance once again shone through. In Game 6 of the Finals, Jordan hit one of the most iconic shots in NBA history, a jumper over Utah's Brian Russell with less than 30 seconds left, giving the Bulls the lead and securing the championship. With that shot, Jordan capped off his career with the Bulls in grand fashion. The Chicago Bulls had won their 6th NBA championship, and Jordan had secured his 6th Finals MVP. The dynasty that he had helped build was complete. But as Jordan and the Bulls celebrated their triumph, there was also a sense of finality. The Last Dance, as it would be called, marked the end of an era for the Bulls. The team had reached the pinnacle of basketball, but it was clear that the dynasty was coming to a close. The Bulls dynasty wasn't just about winning titles. It was about the culture of excellence, the relentless pursuit of greatness, and the belief that anything was possible when everyone on the team was working toward the same goal. The team's success was a testament to Jordan's leadership, his drive to be the best, and his ability to bring out the best in those around him. As the NBA looked to the future, it was clear that Jordan's legacy would be forever intertwined with the success of the Chicago Bulls. The dynasty was over, but the impact of those years would be felt for generations to come. In Michael Jordan's legendary career, there were countless people who shaped and molded him into the player and leader he became. Coaches, teammates, family, and friends all played significant roles, but one of the most consistent and important figures in Jordan's journey to greatness was Tim Grover, his personal trainer. Their relationship went beyond that of just a trainer and athlete. It was one of trust, respect, and loyalty, a partnership that would last long after Jordan's playing days. Tim Grover didn't start as a household name. His rise to prominence came through his work behind the scenes, helping athletes become not just better physically, but mentally tougher. His approach to training was revolutionary. He focused not only on improving strength and conditioning but also on developing the mental fortitude necessary to excel at the highest levels of competition. Grover's philosophy was simple: physical training alone couldn't produce greatness. It took a focused, relentless mind to unlock true potential. And Michael Jordan, ever the competitor, was exactly the kind of athlete who understood the importance of that balance between mind and body. Grover first started working with Jordan in 1989, after Jordan had already established himself as one of the best players in the league. However, despite his talents, Jordan still faced challenges. He had already proven his individual brilliance, but his team hadn't yet reached the pinnacle of success. Jordan's fierce determination to win was undeniable, but the mental and physical toll of carrying his team through tough seasons began to take its toll on him. In many ways, Grover became the secret weapon in Jordan's arsenal, the behind-the-scenes figure who helped elevate Jordan's game to the next level. Grover's training techniques were intense and demanding, but they were exactly what Jordan needed. His approach was no nonsense, focused on pushing the limits of Jordan's physical and mental capabilities. Grover understood that Jordan's greatness wasn't just about scoring points, it was about sustaining that level of excellence over the course of an entire season and through multiple playoff runs. The training regimen that Grover designed for Jordan wasn't just about lifting weights or running drills. It was about building endurance, strength, and resilience. Grover worked with Jordan on conditioning his body, but he also helped him develop a mindset that would allow him to push through the toughest moments on the court. The physical work was grueling, but the mental work was just as important. Grover's training sessions weren't designed to coddle Jordan, they were designed to break him down and build him back up stronger than before. One of the most important lessons Grover instilled in Jordan was the idea of pushing through pain. For most athletes, the line between acceptable discomfort and injury is a blurry one. But for Grover, the focus was on teaching Jordan how to differentiate between the two and how to overcome mental barriers that would otherwise hold him back. Jordan often said that Grover's training helped him break through mental and physical limits that he never thought possible. This, in turn, allowed Jordan to perform in ways that would become legendary, especially in the playoffs when the stakes were highest. The relationship between Grover and Jordan wasn't just built on the work they did together in the gym. It was about trust. Jordan had already achieved success before meeting Grover, but he was looking for something more. Grover became the person who could push Jordan past the point where most athletes would stop. While others might have told Jordan he had reached his limits, Grover was the one who made him believe that there was always more to give. But it wasn't just about physical training. Grover's role in Jordan's life extended far beyond just helping him lift more weight or run faster. In the toughest moments of Jordan's career, whether it was after a devastating loss or during a period of injury, Grover became a sounding board. He was the person Jordan could trust with his frustrations, his doubts, and his fears. In many ways, Grover became one of the few people who understood the mental and emotional burden that Jordan carried, especially during his most challenging seasons. During the 1997 to 1998 season, when the Chicago Bulls were facing the end of their dynasty, Grover's influence on Jordan became even more crucial. The weight of the Last Dance season was immense. Not only was there the pressure of trying to win one more championship, but there was also the uncertainty surrounding the future of the team. Coach Phil Jackson's impending departure, the media frenzy, and the rumors surrounding Jordan's own retirement made this season one of the most emotionally taxing in his career. Grover was there for every step of the way, helping Jordan focus on the task at hand and maintain the level of performance that had made him an icon. Perhaps the most defining moment of their relationship came after the infamous 1998 NBA Finals, where Jordan played through a physical battle that could have ended the career of most athletes. Jordan was suffering from a stomach illness that left him weak and dehydrated. Yet, despite this, he played through the pain, leading the Bulls to their sixth championship. Grover's role in helping Jordan stay focused during that grueling time was crucial. Jordan wasn't just relying on his natural talent, he was relying on Grover's training and mental conditioning to help him push through. The 1998 Finals were emblematic of everything that Jordan and Grover had worked on together over the years. It wasn't just about physical fitness, it was about being mentally prepared for the pressure of the biggest stage in the sport. Grover helped Jordan prepare not just for the physical demands of the game but also for the emotional strain of playing in his last season with the Bulls. The mental toughness that Grover had instilled in Jordan allowed him to rise to the occasion once again, even in the face of adversity. When Jordan retired for a second time in 1999, it was clear that his career had come to a close. But his relationship with Grover didn't end. Even after Jordan's playing days were over, Grover continued to be a part of his life, helping him navigate the challenges of his post-basketball career. Grover's influence had extended far beyond basketball. He had helped Jordan become not just a better player but a stronger, more resilient person. Over the years, Grover's training philosophy became legendary. His approach, which blended physical conditioning with mental toughness, helped shape the careers of many other athletes, from basketball players to football players to baseball stars. His work with Jordan had helped define a generation of athletes, proving that greatness wasn't just about raw talent, it was about the mental and emotional strength to go with it. The bond between Jordan and Grover remained strong throughout the years. In many ways, Grover was one of the few people who truly understood the pressures Jordan faced. While Jordan's success on the court was well documented, it was the work Grover did behind the scenes that helped him achieve the greatness that the world witnessed. The loyalty and trust between the two were evident in every aspect of their relationship. Grover wasn't just a trainer, he was a friend, a mentor, and a constant presence in Jordan's life. As Jordan's career faded into the past, Grover's legacy remained intertwined with his. The bond they shared wasn't just about the physical training, it was about the emotional connection and the shared belief that greatness wasn't easy to achieve, but it was always worth pursuing. In the end, Tim Grover played a role in Michael Jordan's career that few others could match. He was the unsung hero behind Jordan's success, and without him, the story of Jordan's greatness might have turned out very differently. As Michael Jordan stood on the court after securing his sixth NBA title in 1998, it was more than just another championship, it was the end of an era. The 1997 to 1998 season, which would become known as The Last Dance, wasn't just about winning another championship. It was the culmination of everything Jordan had worked for, the triumphs, the setbacks, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. As the final buzzer sounded, and the Chicago Bulls had once again defeated the Utah Jazz, Jordan's legacy was sealed. But Jordan's journey didn't end with that final shot in Game 6. His career, filled with accolades and victories, was not the end of his story. It was the beginning of something more profound, the impact of his influence on the game, his teammates, the NBA, and even society at large. Jordan had created a legacy that was much bigger than any championship trophy. He had defined a new era of basketball, setting a standard of excellence that future players would strive for. But his impact reached far beyond the sport itself. The years following Jordan's second retirement were marked by reflection, but also by new ventures that proved he could excel in arenas outside of basketball. He became a team owner, buying the Charlotte Hornets in 2010. His journey as an executive wasn't without its challenges, but it proved his resilience. For Jordan, basketball was always more than just a game, it was a platform for leadership. His move into ownership showed his desire to remain involved in the game, but also to shape the future of the sport in ways that went beyond what he had done on the court. As the first former player to become the majority owner of an NBA franchise, Jordan was charting a new course for himself, one that further solidified his position as one of the greatest icons not just in basketball, but in all of sports. However, Jordan's true legacy was defined by more than his ventures as a businessman or even as a player. It was his impact on the culture of basketball and the athletes who followed in his footsteps. Players today, whether in the NBA, college basketball, or overseas, idolize him. They wear his shoes, replicate his moves, and strive to live up to the relentless mentality he brought to every game. His presence transcended the basketball court. With every slam dunk, every clutch shot, and every game-winning play, Jordan built a persona that represented more than just victory, it represented the pursuit of excellence at all costs. Jordan's Nike Air Jordan brand became synonymous with success, and his partnership with the company created a business empire that no athlete had ever seen before. The Jumpman logo became one of the most iconic symbols in sports history, and Jordan's endorsement deals turned him into one of the wealthiest athletes in the world. But it wasn't just the money that mattered. It was how Jordan's success off the court helped elevate the sports profile worldwide. His global influence brought basketball to countries where the sport had little presence, changing the landscape of the NBA and ensuring that future stars would have the global platform he helped create. Jordan's rise from a local high school star to the greatest player in NBA history was a narrative that millions of people could relate to. His story became a symbol of resilience, how one man, through sheer determination and unmatched talent, could overcome obstacles, silence critics, and build an empire. He showed future generations that greatness was a choice, and it was something that required sacrifice, discipline, and an unrelenting desire to be the best. But it wasn't just about basketball. Michael Jordan's influence reached beyond the court, into philanthropy, culture, and business. He became a role model, not only for young athletes but for anyone chasing greatness in any field. His story wasn't one of privilege or ease. It was the story of someone who had been overlooked, doubted, and even rejected. But he didn't let any of that stop him. Every setback was an opportunity to learn and improve. Every challenge was a chance to show the world what he was capable of. Even as Jordan moved into his later years, he remained a beloved figure. His status as the greatest basketball player of all time was never truly questioned. Younger generations of fans who never saw him play still recognized his importance. His name, his brand, and his influence continued to shape the game of basketball. But even more than that, Jordan represented something universal, the idea that greatness isn't given, it's earned. It's about the work you put in when no one is watching, the sacrifices you make, and the tenacity with which you pursue your dreams. In 2020, when Jordan's story was revisited in the form of the documentary The Last Dance, a new generation was introduced to his unparalleled drive and dominance. The documentary brought back the intensity of Jordan's prime years, allowing viewers to see the behind-the-scenes struggles, the relationships, and the raw emotion that came with being the greatest player to ever play the game. The documentary was a reminder of just how much Jordan had accomplished, not just for the sport, but for the culture of basketball itself. It highlighted his leadership, his refusal to accept anything less than greatness, and his ability to rise above the pressures of the game. For Jordan, the greatest moments weren't always the ones that made the headlines. It was the quiet moments of leadership, the focus on his team, and his unshakable commitment to winning that defined his career. It was his role as a mentor to younger players, his willingness to put the team first, and his understanding of what it took to be successful, not just as an individual, but as part of a collective effort. Michael Jordan's story was never just about basketball. It was about defining what it meant to be the best, not only in a sport but in life. The way he carried himself, both on and off the court, made him a model for those who came after him. He showed the world that greatness isn't just about talent, it's about the relentless pursuit of that talent, the willingness to push through adversity, and the courage to take risks. And perhaps most importantly, Jordan's legacy reminded everyone that greatness is not a destination, it's a journey. As the years passed, the world continued to celebrate Jordan's achievements. Yet, the story of his legacy wasn't just written in the championship banners hanging in the rafters of the United Center. It was written in the millions of athletes who aspired to reach the level of excellence he had set. It was written in the businesses he built, the lives he touched, and the standard of excellence he set in every aspect of his life. Michael Jordan had transformed the game of basketball, and his influence would continue to echo through the sport for generations to come. In the end, Michael Jordan's story wasn't just about being the greatest basketball player of all time. It was about creating a legacy of excellence, inspiring others to reach for greatness, and showing the world that through hard work, perseverance, and an unyielding belief in oneself, anything is possible. The journey that began on the basketball courts of Wilmington, North Carolina, would go down in history as one of the greatest tales of ambition, greatness, and inspiration the world had ever known. And so, Michael Jordan's story continues to be told, not just through the trophies, the accolades, or the records, but through the example he set and the legacy he left. It's a legacy that will never fade.